everyone, and welcome back to the Fireside stream with me, your host, Raymond McNeil. Joining me, as always, is the immortal Mollie Rhymemaster. Mollie, how are you doing today?
Tiny Weiss won't take her cough drops.
Oh no! Tiny Weiss! Oh. It's alright. It's the end of Justice League and DC, I feel fine. Oh yeah, did you see that?
No.
DC, you know how DC does all the comics for Ruby? Well, now they're having an official crossover of sorts with the actual DC crew with Ruby. Where like there are now Ruby remnant versions of the DC heroes in the Ruby universe or something like that.
That's great for all three fucking people who read those comics.
Yeah. Oh, girlfriend in chat, I think, right?
Let me see. That is girlfriend in chat. Hi, Sarah. Sarah's been trying to give me cute nicknames. Help her out, chat.
Just, I don't know why giraffe came to mind. I don't know why.
Don't call me. Why? Because of my towering height, obviously.
Yes. Hey Raymond, sorry if this is sudden, but I wanted to make a suggestion for Hazel's backstory in fixing Ruby. I thought maybe you could have nobody wanted the huntsman, so Oz had to made one. Nobody wanted to be huntsman, so Oz had to made. I don't know what you're trying to say there, but I already have plans for Hazel's backstory in my fixing Ruby, so. Yay, more reasons not to read DC. Yeah, I know, right? I'm already having a headache because my next video, I gave up on my Sweet Home video because I had so much apathy towards the show at that rate. It had killed my entire enjoyment of it, so I decided not to do it, and it was just like such a lengthy project for a short video. But in my Thief video, I don't know if I even want to do that anymore, but what really got me is I want to do a fixing of Wonder Woman 1984, and I'm in the middle of writing that right now, but oh my god, that gives me a headache. No, Abe, we are not giving Mollie that nickname.
I knew this would go well.
Yes. Trying to get more people to read the comics. At least Marvel will occasionally have a good Daredevil comic or something. Yeah. Like, but the thing is, like, Batman actually has bat ears. And, like, I get, like, they're going for that whole pun type deal where they're like, or not even pun, but just, I don't know what they're going for with that. It's just, it annoys me to no end because Faunus are a looked down upon. Is he a rich Faunus? What is the lore behind that? Big M. How would you like to be called Big M from now on?
I don't.
Big Mall. You're fixated on this whole big thing, anime as art.
On the inside, I'm a huge person. On the outside, it has been condensed into a body that is far too tiny.
Oh, I see. That wasn't one half. That was a 1 out of 2. To be Huntsman, Oz had made a decree to take regular students out of the schools and put them in Huntsman program. No, because then then we would have probably have less of a good reputation for Huntsman overall anyway. What did I miss? You missed the start of the show. That's literally it. It's been 5 minutes. You're fine. Now what was I going to say? So I was considering a couple of things. I thought Big Mac is successful. Why not Big Mall? Big Mac is it's a hamburger. It's not a person.
That's like not a pun.
It's not a pun, and it's not an adorable animal. So I was going to say, the plan is, I was thinking of how to better distribute our time here because we didn't want to burn out on writing. Obviously, we gave a very vague prompt last time, and I imagine it's letting people do a lot of different things. But I wanted to set a more regular schedule for things because we're doing this every Friday at 4 regularly, and it's turning out to be a very doable thing. I was thinking, I ran this by Mollie, that we alternate weeks where it's a writing prompt for you guys, then a writing prompt for us, then a writing prompt for you guys, and then just a free day where me and Mollie play Phoenix Wright. And I wanted to know everyone's thoughts on that going forward. Machu Picchu. How do you like being named after an Aztec temple? Or is it Aztec? Mollie, you there?
I don't know. I don't feel this one. We're going on a pretty high caliber of nicknames here. Like, one of my nicknames for Sarah is Thumper because when she's happy, she bounces her leg. Like, when she's very happy and she's excited, that's what she does. And it's the cutest thing in history.
Phoenix Wright, as in WRIT. Get out of here! No, you're banned! I'm kidding, you're not banned. Where's
Cooking
the free day with...
I actually considered... going, like, setting up in my kitchen today. But we have so many prompts that I figured it would just be kind of a waste.
Yeah, that would be... I mean, I would love to have more, like, kind of off-the-wall type stuff. I'm also heavily considering opening a second channel so I can put my streams up on there. I would still stream from this channel, but I would download it and then upload it to that channel so it would have... The only thing I'm concerned about is having a text log for the chat, because the chat would not carry with it. And someone's messaging me on Facebook. So that's like all the different concerns I have. Those are my thoughts right now. It seems like people are pretty warm to the idea of the regular streams. If that's the case, next week, what would you want it to be? Would you want us to have a writing prompt, or like for me and you to write together, or would you want to do Phoenix Wright? That is for you, Mollie.
Oh, that's for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind either way. Next week, what's happening next week? Well, I'll be in a different location, which isn't new. The week after that, school's gonna have started, and I actually need to check my schedule real quick.
Oh yeah, that would probably change things.
I'm gonna have to open up Google Calendar, which on my computer will take like 20 minutes, so I'm just gonna have it open on here.
I mean, what version of Phoenix Wright do you have to play through? Because I would stream it to you, but you can't stream the same screen. Streaming gets weird because the camera can only be focused on one thing at a time type deal. It's weird. So, like, I would rather have you playing along with me in your own copy. Do you have your own copy at all?
On my other computer, there is an old ROM that I played through when I was like 17 that I could dig up of the first game. So, let's see.
Let's hope it has Rise from the Ashes ready for it.
Yeah, I do have Rise from the Ashes ready on there. So.
Yeah. Oh, it's Incan. Machu Picchu is Incan. Got it.
And yeah, Thumper's girlfriend did not have a name. She was just the hornily drawn girl rabbit.
It doesn't sound bad. Having more time for each prompt can be useful. Inca. Machu Picchu is Peruvian. Oh, it's Peruvian. Did Thumpers... nope. Miss Bunny. Yeah. Okay. So, with all that kind of covered, I'm glad there's some positive feeling towards that. Let's move into our prompt, which was setting tone, if I recall correctly. Am I wrong?
Yeah. I think that was it.
I know that was...
Guys, we don't remember our own streams.
Yeah, it was pretty vague. I don't look over my own streams because that's a lot of time to spend looking at streams. So, with that said, the first actual input what is the term I'm looking for? Submission. Thank you, brain. The first submission we got was from Anime AK 116, who gave us this quite interestingly formatted version because everything is indented like more than it should be, and I don't see a reason why. So I'm just going to because that's not me just improperly pointing the camera, because I swapped over here, and that's perfectly lined up. That's perfectly lined up. No, this is just. And I'm not sure what you were doing with that anime, AK. Maybe you were playing around with it because we talked about that last week. But like, if you're not doing anything super special with it, I would just recommend. Is it about there? I think is that the average?
I do sort of prefer it only for the reason that I split my screen, so I have the chat on one side and then the dock on the other.
Oh, so I shouldn't have corrected it, is what you said.
I don't know.
Well then.
Oh my gosh, wait, Mufa says, is that the opening narration from Ruby Ripped Wholesale? Is it?
Legends, Fables.
No.
These are about a few names given to stories throughout time. Legends, myths, fables. These are but a few names given to stories told through time. Space, unless that was that already space, and that was just no. You need a space. Lowercase a. After all, how can a city be built when you're on your knees? Centuries of history. Period. Outside that, centuries of history, culture, art, even laws have been made based on stories. The first truth that begets the first lie. This is weird. Okay, so let's talk about this formatting for a second here with the parentheses and punctuation.
That's very like that
This
reminds
very
me
technical.
of like lyrics, where like they do that when like one line starts before the other ends and it's like behind it, so it's happening at the same time.
And it's an interesting thing to do, and I get what you're trying to do here, because it's a question in the parentheses, but a statement outside of it. Do you put a question mark inside the parentheses? Because
parentheses are weird.
Because then you put a period outside the parentheses at the end, regardless.
Yeah, parentheses are weird because they're just kind of like what's inside the parentheses is their own thing. So in my experience, like if I don't know, this is an interesting thing where like I think that if you're trying to set it in its own context, that is how it works. Where it's like, okay, so you have this question, and then that's part of its own thing, and then the period is just part of the sentence that you threw the parentheses in. I'm thinking about it like I think of an equation though, where like what's happening inside the equation, it's like when you have parentheses on an equation, what's happening inside the parentheses is its own condensed thing. I don't know if that's exactly how it works in grammar, but I think it is.
I think it is too, but like at the same time, I also know that you don't put punctuation inside the parentheses. I think if it fits the same, it's also like a statement, like matching the outside the parentheses. So if it's a statement, you don't put parentheses. If it's a question, if like they're both like, say for example, centuries of history, culture, art, even laws have been made based on stories, and then parentheses, lowercase t, the first truth that begets the first lie. There's no punctuation inside the parentheses, and then a period outside the parentheses.
Does grammar have PEMDAS? I don't know if grammar has PEMDAS in this particular case.
It's a good question. You double spaced here. Yet a sad truth remains. These myths and legends that tell of heroes. For the record, I would look into the parentheses thing. It's not something that comes up super regularly in mine. I don't usually use parentheses myself.
Yeah, it's true you don't need to leave the parenthetical in a period. Moop is right. But
well, the big thing is
if that was also a regular sentence, you wouldn't need to end it in a period. But I think because he's asking a question,
yeah, well, it's because the statement outside the parentheses is a statement. It's not a question, and inside the parentheses is a question. So you have conflicting grammatical forms. It's one of those things that you can't just ignore. It's one of those things that like I would. Are question marks distributable? Oh, you're asking the math questions. Okay, I see. Yeah, sad truth remains. These myths and legends that tell of heroes defeating or even killing their monstrous villains still hold a grain of truth. Do you capitalize at the beginning of parentheses? I don't think you do. Do you?
What do you say?
If it's a separate clause inside the parentheses, do you capitalize? Like it's a separate sentence inside of it. So, for example, yet the sad truth remains: these myths and legends that tell of heroes defeating or even killing monstrous villains still hold a grain of truth. Parenthesis. You always get called a Grimspawn for a reason. Do you capitalize the U?
You leave that lowercase, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Parentheses, Mupus says parentheses are kind of like whispered stage directions used with caution. Yeah, this whole opening monologue here kind of reminds me of like when writers are trying to sound more profound than they actually are. And they try to use this, because Ruby does this, they'll use like the same type of phrase over and over. So like truths, lies, stories, legends. And you know how like in Kingdom Hearts they say the word darkness 200 times a game and it's infuriating? That's the same thing.
Yeah. Except for Kingdom Hearts, it's kind of endearing.
Kingdom Hearts has a campiness to it that allows it to do that, and also makes for some great... I don't do drinking games, I do workout games. So if you watch a playthrough of Chain of Memories and you do a push-up every time they say darkness, friends, or hearts, it's like you'll lose it. But
yeah, you'll just lose weight. Like, you don't even have to actually do the workouts. You'll just lose weight from counting.
Your brain will just be trying to process it and you'll lose weight that way.
Now, mind you, it'll be weight from the brain. It's mostly fat anyway, so I mean, like, you'll just be losing that. But you know, who needs not to be a smooth brain?
You know, like those stories about how like people in chess tournaments lose weight because they're concentrating so hard. It's like that.
Yeah, the simple truth was withheld from you. There is a knife for you. Its name is enlightenment.
Oh my god, that's bad.
So then, O reader mine, can you see through Osbin's lies? I believe his name is Osbin.
Osbin is like the poll version. You know how like they'll replace P's with B's, like to be funny.
Yeah. So, all right. First paragraph. I see you center aligned it because it's supposed to be sort of like a kind of mystical text type deal. All right, that's fair. That's okay. It's fairly normal. Very. What Molly said was right. It's trying to sound more profound than it is. And this is a recurring thing I do see with your writing, is that you're trying to play up, specifically this character, that's like half grim bounty hunter character. You're really trying to play up, this is like a dark, mysterious, and brooding character. Get away from that shit. Get as far away from that shit as possible, because the more you play up the dark, brooding loner character, the more people will see transparently what you're trying to do, and they will care less or actively come to hate that character.
So, at the beginning of the Yellow trailer, there's this really dumb thing. There's this really dumb saying. I'm trying to remember it, but I remember it's so fake profound. And they repeat it, I want to say, in like the song Ignite, and it doesn't fit there. I'm trying to remember what he was trying to say, but I remember it was just like a much fancier version of a very common phrase.
Let's see. Trailer premiere.
Abused and neglected male reader. Oh gosh, that's such a great video.
I'm trying to find.
I'm going to talk all my lines like this from now on.
Oh, good. It's already muted. Great. Oh, stupid ads. Get out of here. I'm just trying to see the title thing. Skip ad. Scathing eyes ask that we be symmetrical, one-sided and easily processed. Yet every misshapen spark's unseen beauty is greater than its would-be judgment. I don't remember that. So basically
it's saying be yourself, but like stupider.
Basically. It's not something like profound that I actually really liked from... My favorite line from the entire series is from the White trailer, which is, every man is entitled to his own sorrows. I believe that's the phrase they use. And it's just like, that's a very simple phrase, and it speaks to a very deep truth. It's like, you can't judge someone for what they find painful.
Yeah, like that's what I'm kind of saying. Like, first of all, the difference between like the difference between the red and white and then the black and yellow trailer is still really funny to me. Like, again, I'm still convinced that the first two songs were ghost written, and perhaps like the whole videos were ghost scripted by someone who actually knows how theatrics works. And then the black and yellow trailer are just, guys, we're quirky at anime. Anyway, um, Mupa, that's not true. They did do something with that opening line. They put it into a bad song. Be yourself, but stupider. That does fit Yang. Okay. Anyway, my favorite. I pulled it up. My favorite opening, like tone-setting opening narrative of all time, and I don't think Atma Starfish is here to hear me say it, which is a shame. But hopefully he'll go back and hear it. So the opening of Final Fantasy VI, the GBA version. The ancient war of the Magi. Even when its flames last receded, only the charred husk of a world remained. Even the power of magic was lost. In the 1,000 years that followed, iron, gunpowder, and steam engines took place of magic, and life slowly returned to the barren land. Yet there now stands one who would awaken the magic of ages past and use its dreaded power as a means by which to conquer all the world. Could anyone truly be foolish enough to repeat that mistake? And that kind, like, what Anime Kid did sort of reminds me, like, he ends it with the question of asking the reader, like, you know, something important that's supposed to be reflected of the whole story. But the difference is that the Final Fantasy VI opening is really good for tone setting because it gives you this world setting, you know, gives you that frame.
It's a snapshot.
But then also gives you, it gives you a snapshot, and it also sets up, it doesn't give it away, but it sets up, could there be anyone foolish enough to repeat that mistake? Like, something's going to happen. The game doesn't start on it. The game starts on something a lot vaguer, and you find out the true, like, the whole story later. But that's how you're supposed to set it up. If the game started out saying, like, Terra is a mysterious amnesiac who only needs someone to love, like,
we're no strangers
I would
to
be
love.
like, wow, I don't give a shit about Terra. It's
you
cooler
know the
that
rules, and so do I. Sorry, I can't do myself.
It's cooler that it just drops you in there and lets you learn who she is. So starting by trying to frame our hero as this, wow, he's so cool, he's an abusive, neglected male reader, is, you know.
Yeah, the tone is one of those things that's really hard to quantify, and that's why we actually challenged you guys at least to it. It's very hard to kind of specify what it is. JJ Bass, Jonathan Fuller, he actually submitted this this week. He's the guy that made that side-scrolling Ruby beat 'em up. Ruby.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, really cool game. Highly recommend you guys check it out. He's in the chat. You can click on his name. But JJ Bass, to prove your point, to make me an anime adapting Blake and Yellow to my video game was easy. Red and White are harder because they are thematically artistic, not dumb action. And I'll attest to that. Like, it was a bit of a shock, not a shock, but it was weird with, you know, the red one, where it was just Ruby running through a field and then ending in a big mob of Beowulfs. It felt kind of aimless. Not in a bad way. It felt like you really had to, like, make it work and how it functions. I haven't played the white one yet. I haven't played Weiss yet. Ruby Fading Light, thank you. Everyone Google that. It's a great fun time.
I always like how Mupa. I feel like Mupa was always like simplifying the things we're trying to say into, like, actual phrases. It's a mood. The FF6 intro was a mood, and moods are boundless, is what she's saying, which is true. The mood of something can attest to the whole story.
Your camera froze for a moment there. It's good.
What?
It's fine. Your camera froze there for a moment. It's fine.
I'm just gonna stop moving on stream, and I'm gonna talk with my mouth. You know, I'm gonna talk with my mouth closed, so that when the camera freezes, you can't tell.
Yes. So it is mood, and what I usually try and find with setting is specifics. It's not just, it's actually the opposite of what you think. It's not about like, oh, this vague feeling of things. It's drilling down to a specific detail. It's about, I would say almost over describing in a way. Like this is where like purple prose does kind of come into to play a little bit. I mean, like, you can do it a number of different ways. With an opening monologue, you're not really the opening to Final Fantasy. There, you're not. It's all about specifically what is going on. It's about the what aspect of the question. It's not like setting a mood of. So if you're trying to set the mood of a place, you describe the where, and you describe the where in such detail that you get an absolute feel for it. So if I were to like describe a grimy Victorian era street, I would go into detail about the mud that cakes beneath the grindstones, slick with the refuse of horse and bum alike. I would.
By the way, when you search up Ruby Fading Light into Google, you get JJ's game, and then you also get a Dark Souls crossover fanfiction.
Ooh. Wonder how the hell that works. Dark Souls fanfiction is really weird. It kind of has to be.
Writing a Dark Souls fanfiction is like writing a Breath of the Wild fanfiction. Like, it's.
Well, it's like the question is.
It's not like a narrative, so it's just kind of.
Yeah.
There.
Do you set it? Do you set it back before things went to crap, and you have to kind of figure out what happened back then, or do you set it in the present when there's literally one guy running around killing everything in sight, trying to stop the world from ending?
Yeah.
But
anyway,
yes.
Should we move on to?
Yeah, I feel really bad because we only covered the paragraph.
Let's continue reading this.
Yeah. But yeah. So my point is specifics, and if you're trying to set a mood for like the tone of a piece overall. Like if you're trying to set like a time period, the what is important. So, in the description that she went into, it's all about, magic fading away and metal and machine taking over. Like that's the kind of stuff you need to describe to set the tone. And then
it's very worth noting. It's very worth noting that FF6, despite the fact that it came out in 1994 and was a 16-bit game, they really wanted to make a strong narrative out of it. So they took a lot of cues from opera. And I don't know about operas, but if you ever watch like a play, especially like an older fashioned play, there's always that like opening monologue to set what's happening. Oh yeah.
I've watched a couple of operas actually. My grandfather has dragged me out to the opera once or twice. They are interesting experiences. I'll say that to the very least. I feel like the way you describe things plays a big part in setting mood too. Description. Setting mood is all description. It's all about that. Except maybe dialogue, which can get interesting. Village of Gath, Vale, February 23rd, 1970 BTF.
Imagine living in a place named Gath. Anyway, move on.
I'm sorry, I can't see BTF without seeing BTFO. Back the fuck off.
February 23rd, 1970 BTS.
BTS. Oh. It was dark in the room you were in.
That's how K-poppies want us to refer to time.
You tried to move a finger, a bone, anything to regain some form of normalcy. Pfft, normalcy. Haven't experienced anything normal by definition in years, you thought. Comma, lowercase u. You don't you don't. You is not a proper noun. You don't capitalize it unless you absolutely have to, like at the beginning of a sentence. Yet you couldn't feel anything, as if floating on a bed of air. But then the door opened into the room you're in. The light was blinding at first, but your sight adjusted to it. Watching from within some liquid, a man who was hard to see picked something up that imprisoned you. The scene changed rather quickly as footsteps echoed in your ears. The white coat that pressed against the jar was familiar. You couldn't put your finger on it. There was a sticker or some form of label on the jar, but you couldn't read it. As if the gods themselves have forbidden you to read the contents of the label. It was jarring to be sure. Everything was blurry as hell. The ringing of distant phones and constant noise didn't help either.
This is a big step up for him.
Yeah, and there's still some issues in here where it's like you could be a little more clean on the writing, like but then the door opened into the room you're in. Like you could probably shore that up a little bit, but this is a pretty strong opening.
He's getting better at describing things in a way that's less like cringe, for lack of a better word. Like he's being a lot more casual about it instead of trying to be edgy.
Yeah,
I think he found his comfort zone in in the style. So that's really good.
I tell you now, this is setting tone a lot better than an opening paragraph. Like, I'll say that now. Like I'm not hating this as much as I am like, all right, I get it. You're profound. Move on. Down here, I'm like, oh, okay. Things are happening.
Star says, I feel like the way you describe things is a big part in setting mood, too. That is true. That's something you learn a lot when you do songwriting, that your word choice can really affect the mood of a song. So it's, when I rank Ruby songs in, like, the very obsessive way I do, because that's, like, the thing I'm known for now, I have the lyrical score, and something that can deduct points from the lyrical score is tone like dissonance. So I'm gonna open that up real quick so I can find an example.
Okay. Well,
tone dissonance is a big.
You go.
Yeah, you keep reading, and I'll find an example.
All right. Where was I? It's difficult to say what place you were in. But then a blue object came into view. It was probably a door, given that it moved to reveal another blurry room. The man holding the jar you were in popped the cork at the top and poured the liquid and you into something. Darkness came again, and then an unbearable noise of a motor was heard, and you felt sucked into some thin, clear tube. Light blinded you again, before quickly going into another hole encased in darkness yet again. Don't use again twice in the same sentence. That's like big on the repetition red flag. And then there was silence, if not for a moment.
Man, I was wondering what Ruby song used 10 filler words, had 7 tone conflicts, and 5 flow killers, and it was All Things Must Die. I think that had the lowest score of any song.
The cries of a child soon came to pass. The hushed whispers around you were taunting you, as if your soul could translate the incoherent message that your ears couldn't hear. Your eyes filled with light again, but you stood up. You stood upright. Upright is one word. Upright is one word. Facing towards a crib. The notes on the clipboard only had 5 things of note. Weight, 4 pounds. Name, N.A. Duran. My name is Duran Kaida, damn it. You thought aloud. 3 periods for an ellipsis. Also a space after ellipsis. It's not like that. I don't know why people do that. You thought aloud. It's a lowercase u. I don't like how we're suddenly getting very, very explicit information like this, like birth certificate and the likes. Though I do appreciate that you centered it.
That's, that reminds me of. I forget which Hunger Games it is, but in one of the Hunger Games movies, or I think one of the books. No, I forget like how they divvy this up. But one of the books, Katniss gets hurt somehow, like she gets hit in the head. And the next book starts with it saying, like, the doctor told me to repeat information to myself so I don't forget it while I'm concussed. My name is Katniss Everdeen. I was blah, 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 blah. And it's like the laziest thing. Like, Sydney Collins is a great writer, but I won't forgive her for that.
That's kind of a lazy way to go about it. I don't know why she wouldn't just have an internal monologue to introduce herself. Or, just naturally get the information out anyway.
Yeah, so, I did find the song I was looking for, and it was Ignite. So I'm gonna pull it up here. And Instead, I got Ignite by Alan Walker, which is probably a much better song. Um, I love how the lyrics genius page has like all this annotation. Like the first verse is literally just Yang saying, "I'm gonna beat you up."
My mama said knock you out, so I'm gonna knock you out.
As soon as Yang realizes the threat to Ruby, her anger and subsequently her semblance takes control of her. The cool-headed delivery of these lines contrasts these angry connotations.
Oh,
Anyway,
crazy.
so the opening verse of Ignite has lines like, "Didn't mother warn you? Now she's gonna mourn you. Being damaged, how you'll end this day," which is a terrible line just in general. Um, and then like the chorus is like, "Fool, you shouldn't stare into the eyes of fire. You're gonna to regret this little fight. You don't want to mess with me. I'm something higher. Anguish, you'll know your miserable plight. Soon you'll bemoan your mistake of a life." Like, it feels like the song doesn't know what it wants. Messing with my family means that soon your history, and then there's a giant rap in there. Um, Yeah, and then the pre-chorus has, "Yet every misshapen spark suffers the judgment and pain, but just light conquers dark. There's a beauty that's great." And like it goes into this poetic thing when the rest of the song is like, "I'm gonna beat you up because you don't mess with me." And like that's what tone dissonance is. You can't, if you want to do something profound, you can't start with being like, "I'm cool." Like,
The someone pointed out, Serox, I missed this. Thank you for catching that. The notes on the clipboard only had 5 things to note of. Don't repeat note. There
hmm.
there were only 5 things scribbled on the clipboard notes. Like that's all you have to switch it up a little bit. But I kind of get where you're coming from, because by the sounds of it, is this like them infecting a baby with Grimm? I'm getting that implication here. You read more.
Sorry, I'm reading the comments now. So this is the heart of Molly's obsession with Ruby music. Very interesting indeed. Yes, you could analyze me on my obsession with Ruby music. I've been doing this since I was 15. Like, okay, so the real reason why is because I used to really not have that much of an interest in music until I was introduced to Ruby, and I thought the lyrics were bad. I wanted to fix them, and that's how I just kind of got on this rabbit hole. So I wouldn't be into music if it wasn't for these songs. So I'm very, very attached to them.
Reading your own text aloud to yourself is a great way to catch repetition and grammatical errors. It is. It really is. Like I said, read this stuff out loud again. Like write it down. And this is like a rule of writing, which is write drunk, edit sober. What this means not necessarily it means that it doesn't necessarily mean you should get drunk and write, because I do not recommend that. My method is usually get exhausted and write, like mentally, like I just get into like a sort of a delirious, sleep deprived state. But that's not healthy either. But the idea is you write in sort of a flow state where you just go. You get yourself going, you start writing a few things, and you're just like, okay, and you're rolling up like a boulder up a hill where you're just trying to get yourself going for the day, and you reach the tip of it, and it starts rolling down where you're just like, okay, I can write. You just go. Just keep going. Then at the end of it,
And then when you have a clear head,
yeah,
go back.
then when you have a clear head, you go back and you read it out loud to yourself, and that's where you clean it up.
Guys, this annotation. "If anyone messes with Ruby, then she would kill them." During the short, Yang goes mad when she sees the Ursa going to attack the defenseless Ruby, and she decides to kill it. Added suggestion: in Ruby Chibi, she also gets mad at a pickle jar Ruby can't open.
Moving on. Actually, I was going to say that Yang short would have been way cooler if it wasn't like a Grimm. If it was like, because like it demolishes the entire threat of the Grimm even more than it already have been. Because like
Why? By the way, why do we keep pretending that being protective over loved ones is like a unique personality trait? I was watching Jenny Nicholson's 2.5-hour video on the Vampire Diaries, and there was a point where she's talking about the protagonist, and it's like Emma, or like no, what's her name? The protagonist Elena. It's like she goes like, Elena is very devoted, which means that she doesn't like to stand by when people are getting murdered by vampires. She's also loyal, which means she doesn't like to stand by when the people she cares about are getting murdered by vampires.
Well, you see, your first mistake
Like
was
that's what that
watching a
makes me
Jenny
feel.
Nicholson video. Uh, the second thing is, I think it's distinctly, it's a little bit different when you're literally willing to throw hands at like the slightest slight to your loved one. Like there's an over aggressive nature to that protectiveness. It's not rational protectiveness. It's not like, oh, my sister's being threatened at knife point, I'm going to beat that son of a bitch up. No, it's, hey, this guy insulted my little sister. If he doesn't back the fuck off now, I'm going to beat him to a pulp. Like
Yeah.
there is an
There's
unhealthy level. I think that's actually that's the thing. People try to portray that as like a positive character trait. That's not a positive character trait. She's literally willing to assault people over words. Like that is not healthy in the slightest, and it shouldn't be treated as such.
if only Yang has shown us she's cared about Ruby in the past 5 years.
Yep. All right, so um, I'll finish up
5
this.
years, 3 years? Where are we? Where are we? Volume
We're spending a lot of time on
8?
anime AK, so let's move on to let's
Yeah,
finish up
sorry.
this section, and we'll move on to the next one. You didn't read any more, not that you could anyway. There is more written on there, but apparently, your birth parents' names are covered in some pen remover, like whiteout or something. But you only stared into the crib. You couldn't see the child's face, but he cried. He did so for so long, yet the staff didn't dare see if he was all right. Then you could see his eyelids open, silver as the moon. The baby calmed down when its orbs of innocence looked upon you. As if out of instinct, your glove hand rose. All but one finger closed into a fist. All but one finger? Do you like leave your pinky out? The child smiled and giggled as best it could. Its clubbed lip preventing the smile to be cute like a normal babe. The now laughing child used a hand to grab your finger. So small, yet so strong for a fragile thing. But everything went black, leaving you in an empty space. All right, so that sets an interesting tone. Like the rest of that was actually pretty good. You had some, you could clean up a lot of the wording, but that's just kind of taking care to read it out loud to yourself, see if it sounds right. But I think overall, another improvement. You're making some good strides here, Anime AK. Now next up is who? Who is next?
Mupa, I think, was next.
It is Mupa. Yep. Mupa, you're actually here for this one.
Yay!
Here, you take this one.
Okay. Sheer curtains surrounded the seashell bed, fluttering multiple layers that filtered blue light from the orichalcum lamps outside. The light fell in diamond and circle patches, cut by crisscrossing shadows from the lattice windows. More shadows danced from the plants outside, their tentacle arms normally alarming, but the pilot fish knew that room was safe. He swam in circles with the others, half dozing with a full belly, water weaving through his gills. Pale motes drifted directionless, brilliant indigo when the light touched them, like glittering scales. An open scent pod had been placed on the table beyond the curtains, decomposing in the water. Its floral scent traced serpentine paths through the room, moving with the current. The golden platinum sculptures that rimmed the top of the curtains and the bed reflected the pilot fish in their internal journey. Directly below him and his compatriots, their mistress and her beloved slept, arms wrapped around each other. Something disturbed water. The pilot fish swam faster in a jolt, but calmed when he saw it was only his mistress's beloved rising. He disentangled their limbs and reached for his clothes. Leaving me so soon? The mistress whispered without opening her eyes. You know I can't stay. He kissed her cheek, moving beyond the curtains, and disappeared among the waving shadows, his entourage of fish leading with him. The mistress's fish swam closer as she lay with slit eyes, caressing them one by one. It was the pilot fish's turn to be pet, and she gave a wry smile. At least you guys don't leave me. He nuzzled her palm and gave tender bites, and she chuckled herself back to sleep. Well, that's
It's
neat.
like a mermaid forbidden romance story.
That's certainly an unusual collection of terms.
Interesting. I don't know exactly what I mean. I get what's happening, but I also don't get what's happening. It's an interesting combination of things going on here. But it's
There's
good work.
certainly like the whole thing was, having a setting, and she certainly set a very particular room and particular tone, so that worked. I'm just not exactly okay. So yeah, it is mermaid forbidden romance.
Okay, good, wonderful.
But once again, trying something a little different.
It reminds me there was a cracked story, a cracked article where they're talking about like the death of ingenuity. This was back when cracked was good and wasn't like shellouts. The and the guy
Don't
was
you mean
talking.
shell outs?
Well, guys, it's been a good stream. No, I'm kidding. No, he's talking about like this ridiculous mermaid premise was like, I can't remember what it was. Christ, why does my brain do this to me? I'm setting up a funny thing and now I can't remember what it is. I just remember it was some ridiculous premise and like the centerfold of it was like a mermaid with like a machine gun. Mermaid romance fanfic. I see the sea shanties have come into trending at the right time. Not a fanfic. My original characters and setting. Yep, I figured as much original. Have you seen that?
I'm so
sea
glad
shanties?
sea shanties are trending because me and my roommate Brian have been like obsessed with them for years.
I would love to learn more sea shanties. I only know Drunken Sailor, and I don't know if that really counts as one anymore. It's more like colloquialism.
There's a lot of great ones. If you look up the Longest Johns or the Dreadnoughts, they do a lot of covers. So if you can stand folk punk, I guess you would call it, it's good.
Is the story Naughty Call? Boo! Boo!
I'm glad everyone's having fun with this.
Next up is JJ, I believe.
All right, let me open this.
Who, by the looks of it, used my advice and wrote in Comic Sans. Now, here's the catch. You wrote a lot, so we're gonna have to. We're going to have to. I'm just gonna change this to something a little bit easier to read. I actually like Garamond. It's actually become my favorite font as of recently. Oh, it is a little small. There we go.
By the way, nobody asked for it, but since I still have the document open, the Ruby song with the worst lyrics are All Things Must Die, and the ones with the best lyrics is a tie between Rising, This Life Is Mine, Red Like Roses, and Mirror Mirror, and Cold, which I could really only give credit to 3 of those, because 2 of them have under 100 words.
Leave Her Johnny is a good shanty.
Leave Her Johnny's a really good shanty.
Usually I don't dwell on so many setting details, but because of the prompt, I decided to go ham on it. No, that's fair.
I think my favorite sea shanty is it's either Roll the Old Chariot or Old Maui.
Roll the Old Chariot?
We'll roll the old.
I think I know that one.
We'll roll the old.
I also know a couple. I know a lot of like group songs. 'Cause I was in chorus, and we had like "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot," which is a.
That's a different song.
Yeah, that's obviously a different song. I guess I was getting confused between like "Sweet Chariot" and then "Roll Out the Barrel." Roll out the barrel. The barrel will have.
From Shadows. By the way, From Shadows is number 2 on the worst in this list. It has a legacy. It really does.
And the shame is I actually do like From Shadows. I know I probably shouldn't, but like, I don't know.
I like the first like 45 seconds of From Shadows, and then the moment the Jeff Williams comes in, Da da da, born with da da da, no life, da da da, into subjugation. Like once that comes in, it's like
I like the
that
attempt to
should have been the
blur.
sign.
I
That
like
should have been the sign.
I like the attempt to blur, not blur, but like integrate, not smoothly, but like juxtaposing several different types of music, one after another. So go from the kind of classical piano, that sounds really nice. Then you have the kind of like beat lo-fi, not a beat, like techno-ish sound. The infiltration music, I called it. Then you have the hard rock, and then you go back to the piano. I like that transition of things. It's an interesting kind of lyrical story, not lyrical, musical story.
Molly,
Anyway,
I would genuinely like a stream where you just go in on the whole soundtracks. That'd be fun. That would have to be something I probably do on myself and not with Raymond. So if that happens, I would have to open up my own channel. Um,
we could do something
which
like that at some point. I would just have, like we would like listen to like a section of songs together, and like talk about them, and then like go on stream and talk about them. Basically it would just require a little bit of prep so I could actually be comparable. Okay, Ruby, cold of heart, brave of soul. The small house creaked and groaned. Wooden beams seemed alive as they cried out in pain against the nighttime gale. The howling wind broke endlessly like waves to the shore, and drifts of snow whipped against windows, rattling them in their frames. The dark forces of night seemed to be trying to rear down on the very walls in search of prey. Or that was how it seemed to the little girl as she slid in the moonlight hallway. Her breath hung visibly in the air as she shivered against the chilling darkness. The floorboards, cold as ice, stung her bare feet, but a simple spell had taken effect on her, making movement impossible, the sound of her own name spoken in a quiet murmur. The young girl pressed back tight against the old wooden door frame, biting back any sound that tried to escape from her mouth at the mention of her name. The dreamlike, unreal nature of night evaporated, with warm grogginess turning to cold, sharp attentiveness. The search for water and a nighttime snack all but forgotten as she hid from the faint yellow light that flowed gently from the kitchen. Now unmoving, breath controlled, and voice stymied, the little eavesdropper listened to that most ancient magic, adult conversation. You might want a semicolon there. I think that probably fit better. They talked in their hushed tones, whispering at full volume the way adults do, believing children cannot hear them, unaware and forgetful of how it draws in those with prying ears.
I love that. That is such a good sentence.
Yeah, this is great. She knew both voices, but hardly recognized their tone. The first, her father's. You'll want another comma there.
Yeah, there should be a comma there.
Lacked the inexhaustible energy that always made her smile, replaced with a tiredness she never heard before. I just don't know what I'm going to do, Crow. She's nearly 8 now, and nothing. I mean, Yang's aura came in after falling from that watchtower, and she was only 6 in her. 6, and her semblance. Well, I wish you'd have given me a.
There should be a comma there too.
Yeah. Well, I just wish you'd given me a Bronwyn family warning before that trip to Armsky. Armsky. I'm still paying back that damned barber. Ruby, now truly awake, knew that she should leave. She didn't like this conversation, and every second was closer to discovery. Does that work? Every second was closer to discovery, or should it be like every second she was closer?
I think the sentence.
Okay. All she could do was listen, unable to move. The fear of getting caught anchored her feet to the ground. Star, I think, just sent me something. Caught anchored to her feet. The little figure was pressed so tightly against the wall she couldn't see into the kitchen, but silhouetted outlines acted out a twisted shadow play in front of her eyes. Her father, head in his hands, flickered and warped like some grim approximation. A thin, claw-like arm reached out for the other man, resting its talons on his shoulder. The sound of swishing liquid, a long drawn-out pause, followed by a clink of metal on wood, bounced through the doorframe. A second voice began to speak. It was her uncle, his usual relaxed attitude replaced with concern and loaded with a measured matter-of-fact weariness. Matter-of-fact should be hyphenated all the way through. Look, Ty, I don't have the answers for you. I don't have the answers for you, I think. Ty shrugged off his attempt at consoling. Launching himself from the seat, he began to pace back and forth around the room. His silhouette melting and reforming time and again against the wallpapered projection. Wallpapered? Gods, so many things I never asked Summer. Is this normal? Is this normal for maybe a pause, is this normal? Is this normal for our family? Should I be more worried? I mean, she's Crow cut back across the rising panic. This time a gravelly sternness had entered his voice. What the hell is sternness? Do you know what sternness is? Oh, sternness. What? No, it wasn't sternness. It was sternness. Is sternness a word?
I've never heard it. Maybe it is.
JJ, what did you mean here, buddy? Is it sternness? Is it slurriness?
As far as this is going, this is good. This is really good. This sets the scene very well. It's like what we were asking for.
Yeah, like my only things like would be recommendations to kind of shore up the POV a little bit, because you start out really strong describing this from Ruby's perspective, and then you immediately 2 paragraphs in you cut, or you 1 paragraph in you cut away to show that it's a little girl's perspective. I think keeping it from Ruby's perspective, like you kind of are, where it's still super intimidating. It's not that she realizes that it's just her imagination. Her imagination is playing tricks on her.
Yeah.
Yeah, spelling mistake. Yeah, it's supposed to be stern. Okay. So.
Adverbs could be one's undoing.
Yep. But yeah, I think we'll leave that there because that's actually really good. I also need to check this from Star.
Yeah.
This is
JJ,
more than
a
relay,
man of
but...
many talents.
Okay, copy. Yeah, JJ, and if I were, yeah, he is a talented man.
By the way, if we do a soundtrack stream, I'd want that to be like this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, before I go back to school. Because I want a place where I can just ramble about something for 3 hours without bothering my roommates.
We'll see if I can swing that. I kind of have plans this week. Like Sunday, there's a stream coming up. I'll get to that at the end of this one.
If not, I could do it by myself on my own channel and figure out how streaming works.
Oh, it's a pain in the ass. Trust me, YouTube is a poison. It'll kill you slowly. Revenant. This is by Cerex. Cerox. The other cleaning detergent.
The other cleaning detergent.
All right. Immediate first points off. The lack of indentation. Formatting. You need to indent these lines, buddy. You know, it helps the flow. So presentation's a little blocky. Solution, never use adverbs. I wouldn't say that. Adverbs have a place. Adverbs have a place.
You know, I'm going to argue with you on indentation. I think indentation is like, okay, just make sure that the text is legible. So if you're not going to use if you're not going to use indentation, the least you can do is
Master Decoy, what did you ask?
Double space it or something, or 1.5 space it.
Master Decoy, answer you. What did you ask? I'm not seeing your earlier. If you asked a question earlier. Yeah, what is it you asked, Master Decoy? I'd be down for a soundtrack stream. School. Solution never use adverbs. A soundtrack stream sounds fun. Nothing but nouns and state of being verbs. No, like I said, I think adverbs have a place, especially if you're describing it from a character's perspective. How characters use adverbs and descriptive wordage, that can be very, very key to describing their character, to exploring their character. All right, so here we go. Revenant, still chapter 1. Like, it's just a scene following my last submission. Okay. Shiro stretched his legs, squeezing himself in the minuscule amount of shade provided by the front cabin of the pickup truck. He let his head hang out the car so that the dry winds lessened the summer heat, wildly thrashing his long hair in doing so. One of those annoying green sonnets flies buzzed around him in short bursts, somehow managing not to be blown away. But he didn't let any of that sour his mood. The caravan was just about a day east of Mountain Glen. Job almost done. While most small groups didn't pay much for huntsman escorts, this one had been quite generous. Nice machine parts or something, he didn't care. Niche machine parts or something, he didn't care. The money was good, and soon he'd spend it all in his favorite bar. The taste of their Lantian rum was still fresh on his tongue. The clinking of plates as staff ferried food around, the warm orange of the ancient gas lamps, the chattering of other huntsmen and huntresses, where somehow the owner was always the only one you could understand, despite his thick, vacuous accent. Shio never tired of reminiscing, whether he was freezing his ass off on the mountains of Lignus or melting
Hold on. Imagine Ruby having accents and world building. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. Shiro never tired of reminiscing, whether he was freezing his ass off on the mountains of Lignus or melting on the backs of his pickup truck. If he closed his eyes, he could see his team drinking the weekends away there, back when it was still all four of them. Scroll wheel? Scroll wheel? There we go. Read the comments on your videos. Yeah, that's one, when did you put them? Because did you just comment them or not? That's because I comment on the ones I feel need commenting. It's not just, I don't just ignore comments unless like I get overwhelmed, because I can. It happens occasionally. I'm getting up there in subscribers. Their accents. 2 separate characters have British accents for no reason. That's right. What characters do have British accents? I'm trying to remember.
Ren has one, but only as a child.
Right. And then he has an Asian accent that goes away. So, but who's the other British accent? I don't remember. Anyway. Why is the scroll wheel not working? This is bizarre. Okay, there we go. Until the car hit a bump in the road and shook him out of his daydream. Piece of trash needed new suspensions. He'd still be right.
Hold on, Serix is right. Why does Velvet have an Australian accent?
Oh, right.
If like the rest of her team doesn't, aren't they all from the same place?
No. The entire team is spread. Let's see. I think.
Where's Velvet from?
Velvet is from Atlas, which raises a whole. Or is she from Atlas? She might be from Vale. Her dad lives in Atlas. Then you have, I think Yatsuhashi's from Mistral. Fox is from Vacuo. And Coco might be from either Vale or Mistral. I can't remember.
Somebody look it up. Where's Velvet from?
I don't know if they've ever confirmed where she's from.
Like the way accents are done in the show makes me think that some people just say, like, they just do that for fun.
Possibly. Velvet is Australian. Oops, my mistake. Who else was thinking of that? I don't know if it's British, but I remember her having an accent. Plus, Australia doesn't exist in Ruby. Velvet is Valian with At Legion Dad. Fox is from Vacuo. Don't know on the other two. I think Coco's from Vale. I think. But she might be from Mistral.
So why doesn't everyone in Vale have an Australian accent? Like,
well, then ask it again, Master Decoy. I can't go back and check it right now. Don't forget Scarlet technically has a Welsh accent in Ruby. Oh, that's right. Because Scarlet, voiced by Gavin, who's British, who's Welsh. Well, Welsh, which is technically British, but, there's a distinction.
British, but they don't shut up about the fact they're Welsh. Every time there's a Welsh person in British Bake Off, like, half their bakes are about Wales.
Remember getting into a chain argument with someone about a world race, about our world races don't exist in Remnant. It was dumb. Yeah, our world races don't exist in Remnant. And to be fair, I might have missed your comments. They don't really notify me when people comment on the streams. They kind of put streams in their own category when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I don't usually see comments on streams. 100% quality increase of Vale is Australia. Their newest piece of cargo sat across from Shiro, hunched over and lost in his own head. Red had barely spoken. For now, the huntsman named him after the color of his scraggly hair. Amber eyes were sunken in and trailed off into the distance, speaking of an ordeal that had kept a piece of the young man. They'd found Red walking along the roadside earlier, dehydrated and confused. Almost got himself killed when he ran in front of the cars to get their attention. Despite some complaints from the workers, the leader of the merchants had decided to take the Outlander in. If you found someone in a wild alone and unarmed, they could need every bit of help they could get, he had said. Shiro, though, didn't agree. It was too clear that they were dealing with a bandit. The scars alone betrayed a life of combat. Red had more than most huntsmen, Shiro knew, and so the redhead had been fighting some time before unlocking his aura. It wasn't uncommon among the wild folk to leave kids to figure out for themselves, forcing them to prove worthy of the holy light. Or so the Branwins used to say. The weather is just fantastic, isn't it? Shiro joked. Crappy small talk for sure, but all he wanted was to draw the Outlander out of his introspection. Whatever he had gone through, wallowing in it would only draw grim. Red didn't answer. He pretended not to hear Shiro, but that wouldn't help him. What? Not much of a summer guy? The huntsman pestered again. Rolling his eyes, the Outlander spoke with hoarse voice, almost a whisper. I prefer winter. Interesting answer. You might want a comma after whisper. Interesting answer. Wouldn't expect that from a local. Though the eyes didn't fit, Red clearly had some Aquoin blood. Nowadays, these folks lived all over Anima. Maybe he stemmed from the colder regions like Argus. The rags barely hanging from his frame showed no distinct style. They only made every other criminal Shiro met look like a lord by comparison. But Red's place of origin didn't matter much. No, what the huntsman wanted to know was how a lone bandit, not even wearing shoes, could survive in the mountains of northern Sanas. These were grim lands, after all. So yeah, that's pretty good. That sets up a pretty good tone, I think. A little bit of mystery. It sets up the kind of a relaxed nature of this character and how he kind of treats things. Very good work, Syrinx. Just a little formatting. Got to get a little formatting in there, but otherwise, very good.
Agreed.
Yeah. It's okay, Master. It's fine. A lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of weird backdoor stuff that goes on with YouTube that gets really, really stupid. That's the reason why I'm considering getting just a second channel to put the streams on, because it completely throttles channels that stream a lot. So I need to actually be kind of careful with that. Okay, so that was Syrinx. Next up, we have Frontier, which I believe I'll let you read.
Okay.
Akal, old Greek word, supposed to be whatever place Pyrrha is from. Related to that, should I add small glossary as explaining fantasy words? No, I think from context you should be able to relegate that information. Mupa, it's okay if he ats me every single time. It helps me see his post if he needs it. Someone messaged me. Who said?
Like, here's the thing. Here's the thing about accents in fantasy worlds. You either do it consistently or not at all. So like like Final Fantasy 12, they had people from America, from England, from Scotland, from Iceland. You know, they really wanted to make this all like very consistent.
Oh yeah, that's one of the things.
And then on the opposite end of the
you go.
On the opposite end of the scale, something like Fire Emblem Three Houses, where they said no accents. The person who speaks English as a second language does not have an accent. She talks weird, but she doesn't have an accent. They made sure of that. The voice actor said so. Like, that's the thing that bothers me about Ruby, is it's just like, she talks Southern, and I'm like, why?
Yeah, your camera. I was going to say your head's a little bit cut off. He wanted to know if Neo X Yang has a chance at fixing Ruby. Also offered the right of fanfic. I've already addressed this, Master Decoy, in my addressment stream. No, Yang and Neo are not going to become a couple in fixing Ruby. That's not what I was going for. Master, you should probably check my streams, my fixing Ruby streams, if you're looking for those answers.
Ironically, FF13 was consistent in terms of everybody having Pulse having Aussie accents. That's true, and it's really funny because there were two main characters who were from there. One had an American VA and one had an Australian VA, and people gave the Australian VA shit for not sounding Australian enough.
I was gonna say, but you know, in Final Fantasy 13, they also had consistently across the board that every character was shit. No. Sorry. Any chance to take to just take a shot at Final Fantasy 13? I was gonna say, like, my favorite, one of my favorite dubs, and I've only listened to it a couple of times, or I've only listened to it a little bit because I usually watch the Japanese dub instead of the English one. I appreciate Princess Principal. They put so much effort into giving every single character British accents, every single one, and the Japanese character speaks with a Japanese British accent. Like she you can tell that like it's supposed to be a non-native British speaker, and that is an effort you do not ever see in anime. It feels. So that
Attack on Titan had a whole character whose thing was that she was hiding like a country accent, and then they made her voiced by someone who sounds like she is from Los Angeles. And I'm always angry about that. Funimation hates accents. They just do.
Mupa, highly recommend Spoonie. If you can track down the Spoonie review of Final Fantasy 13, it is glorious. It will probably be super cathartic for you. Highly recommend. It's happening in Metal Gear's Rising Revengeance, where people said the French voice actor didn't sound French enough. Really? They didn't think she sounded French enough? I mean,
I think they just have like a stereotype in their head, and it's like, you know, in FF13, Vanille sounded like my version of Velvet. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing, so I'm just going to do the version I know in my head. Whereas Fang sounded like an actual Australian.
Yeah, because like the I mean, and she wasn't even like completely. She was Algiers. She was from Algiers, so she wasn't like 100% French. That was a whole big thing. Is that she just, you know, she was from war-torn sections of Algiers. She like watched people get slaughtered in front of her and became like absolutely desensitized to violence, if I'm remembering correctly.
Then she wouldn't even sound like she was from France. She would sound like she's from Algeria, which is different.
Yeah, but she was, you know, she still spoke French. Like I believe Algiers.
Right.
Algeria
yeah, they speak French there.
Um, God, people crap on Metal Gear Rising for how it does a terrible job delivering antagonists. Like they're presenting the antagonist, but the antagonists are all really interesting characters. Like if you ever get into that game, it's like they seem like stereotypes of like radical ideologies, but there's some nuance there that just gets completely lost, I feel like. And I remember all the characters. You had Mistral, you had Monsoon. Monsoon's my favorite. I love Monsoon. Sundowner, Jetstream Sam, friggin' Senator Armstrong, who is amazing, and everyone should conform to his ideology, except for the violence part. That's a bad part of his ideology. But he's a man I would legitimately shake the hand of gladly. He's insane. I love him.
Anyway, let's get to Williams.
Yes.
Williams' submission, because he's actually in chat now.
Oh. Hi, William.
Okay, I'll take this one. The storm had blown up out of nowhere. From atop a rocky slope, Nomad watched it as it advanced across the desert with the lazy assurance of an apex predator. Oh my gosh, he's actually trying to fix Nomad from nowhere. I think he tried this before.
Yeah, I think he mentioned that it was sort of a not a rehash, but like a redress of one of his earlier submissions. Because this is familiar.
Not with the speed, but instead with scale, crossing miles with the same ease that Nomad would cross inches. Already the leading edge had reached where he stood, the harsh, ceaseless wind carrying a shroud of dust. Both herald and vanguard of what was to come. The storm itself stretched across the horizon as far as Nomad could see. A colossal mass of blowing sand and twisting shadow that reached high into the sky to blot out the sun casting into the desert with an eerie false twilight. Nothing could be seen within the clouds save for the forked tongues of silent lightning that flared across the surface. Brilliant explosions of ephemeral light and dancing shadow last only seconds before fading back into nothing. Coolest description of a thunderstorm I've ever heard.
I'm down with it. I think it's pretty awesome.
Full on. Beautiful and deadly. That looks bad, Ronnie said.
This is bad.
Nomad turned to look at the woman standing next to him. This is bad. Standing next to him. She had her face wrapping pulled back to better see, revealing an expression of iron stoicism. Nomad had come to know her well enough to see straight through it to the worry lurking underneath. I've seen worse, Nomad replied. She turned to look at him, hidden worry shifting to obvious doubt. How much worse? Worse. It was technically the truth. Nomad had seen worse, just not up close, and not headed straight towards him. He kept those details to himself as Ronnie turned her attention back to the storm. So what's the plan, priest? Nomad pointed down at the desert below. There's a ruin down in the lowlands that we keep stocked as a waypoint. It should be able to shelter everyone. Ronnie squinted in the direction he pointed, trying to spot what he was talking about. She wasn't able to, not at this distance, not through the dust, though that didn't stop her from trying. How far? Less than 2 miles. 2 miles? Her gaze bounced between Nomad, the storm, and the alleged ruin, her eyes alight with nervous calculation. We can make it, but we'll have to be quick. Nomad took up his staff from where he'd stuck it in the sand. I'll range ahead and scout the path down. You take a head count and get everyone on their feet. They need to be ready to move by the time I get back. Fine, Ronnie said, turning away from him. Just don't get lost on us, priest. Need someone to blame when this all goes sideways. I'll keep that in mind, Nomad chuckled dryly.
This world you're building with this Nomad character is really cool. I like this Nomad guy and this weird way he lives in the desert and leads people around. You got something here, man. You got something here. This is cool stuff.
Now all you need to do is throw in some shipping and a coffee shop AU, and fanfiction.net will be all over it. So will AO3.
Yes, exactly. Did you see my post? Like, I was actually speaking of Princess Principal from earlier. The college coffee shop AU? No. Victorian era coffee shop cafe entrepreneurship. I think that's actually way funnier. I think that's actually it's a really fun premise. Although I found the description kind of dry at times. But that one's like really, that one gets messed up where it's like,
What's everyone's like cringe AU? Like when they see it, they cringe. Mine is punk rock.
oh, that's an interesting one. I don't really cringe at a lot of different ones. Yeah, that's a hard one. I would have to think on that because like I'm pretty open
William
to
says,
different.
"Do not tempt me."
Do not tempt. I would buy your book.
William, William, I could trust to make a coffee shop AU, unpaid internship AU.
Oh,
Hi, Atma.
unpaid internship AU. Nah. Paid internship AU. That's where it's really at. Mine is ABO verse. I can respect that.
X-Mail read one.
Oh, X-Mail reader. Oh my god, yeah. Christ, no. Keep
Remember when I looked
XOC.
at when you search the John tag and sort by most views?
Yeah, no. If it's XOC, like that is typically my nope out. Where I'm just like, okay, look, I came here for a combination of characters. I'm sorry, guys. No one cares about your OCs. No one.
Unless they're really good, like stars.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, the problem is the bad reputation carries over. So even good ones like stars will get damaged in the process purely by reputation
Abused
alone.
and neglected mail reader.
The response streams have been really long since Volume 3. To be honest, I prefer the old format where you read the comments of your own and print out ones that can be addressed summarized. Repeated points, the old format can also be done live.
If you search up the John tag at all the police are notified.
Floof is back with soup. Everyone clap. Floof is back with soup. Okay.
High school AUs are a huge mystery. High school AUs are funny because they have that whole showing your hand thing where people are just like, all right, guys, high school AU, are you ready? My lack of friends in high school. The bad relationship I had with my science teacher. The jock I had a crush on. The other jock I had a crush on.
I like high school AUs because it does challenge writers to reassess the characters in a new setting accurately, and that's sort of why I judge it on if I do read them, where I'm like, okay, these characters have they have been very well established in the world that they're from. How well did you translate that into a real world AU? How
I think it's
well?
really funny. I think it's funny when it's like Attack on Titan because like or something like that where all the characters are so heavily defined by their like horrific trauma. That's very specific to the world they're in.
What?
There is like an official Attack on Titan high school AU thing, but it's like comedy because that's the only way you can make that work.
Oh yeah, like all the same. Like you could give them all like still traumas that define them, but I feel like that's a series where the trauma is so universal and large, like that giving that they all kind of have their trauma all typically roots from a similar place where it's all kind of like spurred on by these titans. So if you do an AU, you kind of need something equitable, and you're not going to get that unless like maybe you have like a terrorist attack at a high school, something like that, some kind of like out of left field type deal that like affects all the characters equally but like in different ways because they were in different places during it.
My Immortal is a masterpiece and belongs in the MOBA. That's facts. Yeah, but like that's the funny thing is you go through like the AOT tag and it's like Levi was a detective, Ervin was a landlord at a brownstone in Brooklyn. And when they cross paths, things will never be the same.
See,
Like, it just doesn't work unless you are intentionally doing it for comedy. Mostly because those characters are, like, those characters are literally only good in a wartime setting. Because Levi being this, like, cool-headed badass who is an asshole to everyone is, like, insufferable. Just in general, and is only slightly midgetated if there is a horrific thing going on.
There has
And
to be a
anything,
need.
everything that makes Erwin interesting comes from the fact that he is a commander.
I mean, you can find ways to make those work, but at the same time, it's just like the God. Imagine an AOT killing / stalking AU.
That definitely exists. I promise you that
I was
exists.
going to say,
promise you
why
I've
pretend? Why imagine? You know that exists.
On Titan, killing, stalking. Wait. You see that in stuff in a lot of genres without well-defined characters. Ruby. Anyway, let's see. I searched it. One of these is in Spanish. One of these. Okay, we do have Attack on Titan and Killing Stalking, like a crossover. Real world AU is the worst. If I cared about people with mundane problems in the modern world, I'd talk to real people. Exactly. I never got it.
This is a problem I have with a lot of fiction. Like, there's a lot of people that write real world fiction, and I guess I'm technically guilty of this with mine. Although I try to make it a little more fantastic. I've always my philosophy on writing is writing should be trying to help people experience things they will never experience, and a lot of people experience these mundane things. So why the hell are you writing about them?
Oh my gosh, guys, we found it. Okay, this is the king of Fujo crossovers, okay? Killing Stalking, Haikyuu, AOT, Shadowhunters, free.
Oh my god. I shipped Blake with a garbage truck. I mean, that is the only good ship for her.
Yeah, so there definitely is Attack on Titan Killing Stalking AUs.
Why must the horrors I imagine be reality? Well, that's because you're actually a Lovecraftian being, and simply thinking makes it reality. All right.
Like, okay, here's what I'm gonna type in Levi X Erwin because, like, I'll get 3 billion results. There is a Levi X Erwin fic. There's a Levi X Erwin fic for every single person here. Times 1,000.
Well,
poor cards.
if you want to load up...
So you're just shipping her with Yank again, please. I love it when the chat roasts, like, a specific character all at once.
So if you click that link, the last one is Star's submission for this week, and that'll round us out.
Oh yeah, Star was gonna send something in. She DM'd me, she's like, Molly, can we send in something that's kind of violent? I'm like, Star, we literally had a stream about murder.
Yes. Love violence. Violence is one of those things that, like, it's weird how... I mean, I don't understand a lot of people where it's like, oh, that's too sexual. Meanwhile, I'm going to go over here and have, like, these guy's intestines spill out. I don't really understand where it's like, you know, you show a bit of ankle, everyone gets up in a tizzy, you know, but, you know, disembowel people en masse and have their heads explode, and you're completely fine. I don't get why people have an issue with that. I mean, out of respect for the stream, because I know people are like that, I try to stray away from sexual content on here, definitely. We try not to have that on here. But it's just like, I love violence. I love sexual stuff.
Hold on. Janice says the good thing about Blake X garbage truck is the garbage truck is meant to leave.
Wow. Holy crap, man. That's a burn as hell.
Anyway, so I just wanted to prove something. So I'm in the Levi X Erwin Smith tag, which I would never actually go to in my real time. Alternate universe, college, coffee shop owner Levi Ackerman. That is here. That is like the second thing on here. Let's see. Okay, that's like, okay. I like the ones where it's like they have like PTSD and like everything, but it's because of like a secret relationship and not because of war. Let's see what we have. ABO. Okay, alternate universe, coffee shops, businessmen. You see what I'm getting at? Like, this is all just incredibly boring. It's like the only thing that makes Erwin interesting is the fact that he's like
That is a very flattering frame to her frozen on. You froze. You froze.
Uh, that's because I got a call on my phone. Am I unfrozen?
Yes, you're unfrozen. You're good.
Okay. Um,
I would hope there isn't a Hitler x Levi fanfic, but the intensity. Tell me one thing, it's probably a thing. Also, did I monetize the stream? I can't remember. It doesn't automatically monetize streams.
to be fair, Bumblebee gives everyone PTSD.
I don't know why it didn't automatically monetize. Well, I wish I could automatically set that up. It's not monetizing the stream, guys. That's a shame. Yeah. I like real world AUs from time to time because like the big thing for me is if you're taking someone from a fantastical world and you're putting them into a mundane world, how does that change their characters? How do you and a lot of times it's just poorly transplanting. These characters
Like,
don't really have.
Ervin is a softie. Like, bro, Ervin saw a famine happening, and he said, okay, if we let a fifth of the population die, that solved the famine. That is an actual thing that happened.
Did they actually let the population die?
Yeah.
Holy crap. That is...
AOT Twitch streamer Ervin.
And she died again.
Of all characters.
All right, well, enough about AOT. Let's move on to Star's submission, shall we? You want to take this one?
Yeah. Am I unfrozen?
Yes, you're unfrozen now.
Cool.
You're roboting pretty bad, actually.
I kind of lost my entire squad due to my commander's terrible plan. Like, that really sucks, you know? Like, I don't know, but like the good news is that after that happened, I was approached to buy an energy drink. Anyway,
You cut out through all of that, and I actually closed the
I'm
call
sorry, I
briefly
can't
to
do
try and
anything
refresh it.
about that.
I know. I'm not blaming you. I'm just letting you know, so you know that like we cut in and it's like I lost my entire squad and the thing, and then I got approached by an energy drink, and then you cut out again. So it's just like I'm like, wait, what the hell's going on?
You know what? That's the whole joke anyway. That's Levi's Negro. I lost my entire squad, but the good news is I got a new sponsorship. Approached by an energy drink.
It's just like it's the can of energy drink just walking at her like the JoJo walk.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
For my internet.
All right, let's try and read through this because now it seems stable. Knock on wood.
Okay, I'm sorry, guys. No one was going to help her, not in all the Vale, and Mayumi wonders if she even deserved it. She gasps for air, tumbling across the alleyway, her back slamming into a nearby wall. Pain spirals up her spine, bruises already forming beneath her skin. The urge to engage her aura, to heal the wounds, is strong, but she resists. It will not help her cause to anger Pixie further by doing so. Guys, stop making fun of me. I can't control when my internet cuts out, and it doesn't. I'm doing my best here. Anyway. Who was it? Clover. Was that his name? Pixie reaches down with a snarl and yanks Mayumi up by her hair, dangling the young girl inches from her face. Okay, that was supposed to be read a lot meaner than I wrote it. Mayumi stays silent, her body shaking. Every inch of her skin quivers and her bones rattle with fear. Answer me, Pixie shrieks, tossing the young girl to the ground. Mayumi's body falls limp. Sharp stones digging into her skin with a stinging burn. Molly, you could pull off a Rule 63 Danny McBride cosplay? I don't. Anyway. The only answer Mayumi can muster is a tiny shake of her head as she attempts to push herself onto her hands and knees. A boot slams onto the base of her spine, followed by the tugging on her tail. The chat's making fun
Yanez,
of
why would you
my,
insult her like that? Okay, you're good. You're good. You okay there? What's up?
It's just like embarrassing because it's like I'm using a lot of data right now from my phone to try to make sure this doesn't happen. It happens anyway.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. You're stable right now. Like nothing's happening right now. I was just commenting on the whole Danny McBride thing. That was, I looked him up. He's not very flattering. That's not a very flattering statement, I don't think.
I do have Tiny Weiss with me. Why does Pixie need to know who she's been with? There's no way she doesn't recognize Clover's scent. Can't she just give Mayumi a punishment and get this all over with? Clover doesn't need to be involved at all. Her lungs collapse as Pixie raises her boot and slams into Mayumi's ribs. Mayumi curls her tail over in fear, hugging it tightly as tears sting her eyes. Please build in her stomach and die on her tongue, only quiet murmurings escaping. The roots of her hair strain against her scalp, and she's face to face with Pixie's bright blue eyes once again. Do I need to throw you again? No. Mayumi's lower lip quavers. She can feel the blood running down her shoulders and stomach, hitting the ground with a steady drip. You'd rather me stop, right? Pixie soothes. You want me to set you down. You could heal yourself up. We'll go home to Gabriel and Randy. You want that, right? Pixie asks, her free hand stroking Mayumi's darkened cheek. Mayumi replies with a tiny nod. A sharp slap is Pixie's response. Why'd you do it? Pixie seethes. Do what? Talk to Clover? He was her friend. What exactly had she done? In a moment of spite, Mayumi gives a sharp retort. I want to have friends, she responds. I don't think you need to put in she responds, because you put that she gave a retort, so that should indicate that. Before she can recognize her mistake, her organs crumble? I don't think crumble's the right word there. Crumple is probably the word you're looking for. Beneath Pixie's fist, and she has to hold back vomit. Bright flashes swim in her vision, and she tastes iron in her mouth, thick against her tongue. It tastes vile, and she wants nothing more than to spit the disgusting stuff out. The pain from the assault, however, is only second to what she feels when she sees the distress painted on Pixie's face. Pixie's gargled cry tears Mayumi's eardrums and strikes her heart with guilt. There are tears in the pink-haired woman's eyes, streaming down her cheeks and dripping onto her dress. Am I not good enough for you? You're so selfish. Do you even think about what I want? What I need? You're just going to leave me like that. Go with him? Pixie shrieks, her fingers tearing at her pink pigtails. Alright, now Lupa's asking if it's crumble or crumple. I don't think people's organs crumble when you hit them. I think they crumple. Like you double over.
Yeah, crumble is like...
It's very minor.
Yeah, crumple is like crumpling a piece of paper, while crumbling is like pieces of brick falling apart.
Yeah. Anyway. Mimi pushes herself up. Despite her shaking legs, she staggers closer to her partner and reaches up, grasping the woman's wrist. Please don't hurt yourself, Mayumi mutters. The guilty pit in her stomach hurts more than the beating. Pixie was hurting herself again. Okay, this is like a very personal thing, but when somebody does like a terrible thing, like beat somebody, just horrifically beat somebody, like in this scene, and then it's like, oh, but they're actually mentally ill, so I feel bad for them. Like that, I don't know. I don't really have the bigger context, but this feels wrong.
I think that might be the intent, because I think this might be more a Stockholm syndrome.
Okay. If it's framed as a bad thing, then yes. But if it's framed as like a positive trait of Mayumi's, I can't really get behind that.
Yeah, I think like because by the sounds of it is that Mayumi wants to have a life beyond this girl, but she's sort of like indebted or like does actually care about Pixie. I don't know.
Yeah, again, I think that might be um that might be a context thing. You aren't supposed to like pick. Okay, so that is a context thing. Sorry about that, Star. Crumble works. It's an IoT fanfic. Many people's organs crumble in that story. Yeah, um, but yeah, Mayumi is being manipulated. That's the point. Okay, I am just making sure. Not because I thought you would do that, but I'm just making sure. You did mention this works less without the context, so um, my mistake. I'm sorry. Please, hold up. Pixie was hurting herself again. And Mayumi can't help but think it's her fault. I'm sorry, please don't do this to yourself. Here, let go of your hair, she whispers as she chokes back tears. Pixie sniffles. Then in a flourish, she relents and pulls Mayumi to a hug. For a long moment, they hold this embrace without any sound to interrupt it. The maid of Mayumi's wounds fades to the back of her mind as Pixie's weight pushes against her, promising her that everything would be okay. It was over. A dull golden light engulfs the young fire, slowly her aura begins to heal her wounds. Promise me you won't go talk to him, Pixie whispers, her fingers running through Mayumi's ponytail gentle strokes. Promise me that I'll be enough for you. Pixie's breath washes over Mayumi's neck and her heart stops. No was not an option, but that word danced on her lips. Pixie squeezes her desperately, as if sensing Mayumi's trepidation. Yes, I promise.
You want a
Mayumi
comma
stutters.
there after yes.
Yeah. I didn't notice that it was missing, but yeah, you want a comma there. Terrified to shatter the peace after just achieving it. That should be peace like world peace, not again, that's just a homophone thing. Because it's peace like a puzzle piece. Pixie's body tenses like a snake around its prey. Ooh, I like that. She knows Mayumi's lying. Do you? She whispers, blue eyes growing cold. Pixie lets go of Mayumi and takes a step back, her hands balling into fists. I do, Mayumi cries, stumbling back to avoid a strike, her hands flying up to shield her face. I promise, I really do. I really do promise, she pleads, tears freely flowing and mixing with the dried blood on her cheeks. Pixie regards her, then pulls her into a hug. I believe you. Guilt sinks its predatory fangs into Mayumi's heart. Do you know why I believe you? Pixie whispers. Why? Mayumi asks, her voice trembling. Because you'd never lie to me. That would be selfish of you. You aren't selfish, are you?
Oh God.
That's you with the framing that you gave. That's really cool, and it's very creepy.
Yeah, I like this. And my only question at this point is like I want to know more about Pixie and like, is this? Does she realize that she's doing it? Is she cognizant of the manipulation, or is she just doing it compulsively? That's what I want to know. I want to know like is she intentionally manipulating Mayumi? Is she like does she cognizance? I want to know that because like that kind of determines is she just mentally ill or is she a cruel evil human being? That's the kind of stuff I want to know more about a character. I like that. I like this dynamic. It's
Yeah,
horrible.
That's tone setting. It's different in the sense that like it's not about the emotion of the situation. It's about like I want to learn more about these characters, and I am supposed to read Star's Fic. I have it on my schedule to get to that tomorrow. Just do some more beta reading. I am excited to read it though.
Yeah, and I've got such a packed schedule. I would if I could. I'm falling behind on fics that I want to read, beyond the ones that I would really even like to read. Like there's like the whole layer of like, oh, I have friends fics I want to read, but then I have the ones that I personally already follow where I'm kind of invested already. So I read those first, then I get to the friends ones, and then like there are the request ones that come in that you got to read this or even lower on the list. So it's like I have like so much I want to do. Yeah, I know there's an entire fanfic that goes into it. Yeah, I don't think that question is answered so far. I mean, it's fine. Like, even if you leave it vague, like, it's fine. Though, when she gets her comeuppance, typically you do usually see whether or not it is or not. But yeah, that was great. Great Star. Good work. You really set like I know Molly was kind of uneasy about it, but I think you set the tone perfectly for like this abusive dynamic. I think like the tone was perfect for it. So
Yeah. I was just a little thrown off because I've seen things. And by things, I do mean Sheep 2018.
wait, Sheeb 2018, what?
She-Ra 2018.
Oh,
It's like
uh,
now I can't like not be uneasy whenever I see this type of dynamic because for every one of these where it's bad, there's 9 more where it's framed as a good thing.
I will still argue with you on that. I always will, but I definitely, like I say, I do see your points. Let's see what you think of the full version of mine, but the schedules. Yeah, yeah. I wish we could get to more of this stuff. Oh man, and we're actually running up on 6 o'clock. Gotta start winding down. So just a few announcements and a few just housekeeping things. I'm looking into a second channel. That's where all streams we'll download them from here and post them up there. We'll lose chat for a couple of them, but I'm hoping to reformat a little bit on the screen so we have chat on screen at the very least. The second thing, the final Sketchy Huntsman stream for Fixing Ruby is going to be on Sunday at 9 p.m. EST. So that's 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I believe. The what else was there? There was something else I was going to cover. Wasn't there? Maybe next week. Next week we could do the music stream for our Friday stream. We could instead of doing the writing or Phoenix Write, we could do just the music stream. And then the week after that will be the next prompt. What prompt should we give so people have 2 weeks to work on them?
I don't know. I don't know about this being. I guess we could do next week's stream. The thing is, like, I don't want to be like that, but that would end up being very me focused, because that's like my thing.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, why not? I'm at least very much intrigued by that kind of stuff. It'd be good writing exercises. Good for the writers in the room. So
When can we bring Doe back?
I mean, that's a you question more than anything.
I love how everybody like adored me just making bread so much. I guess I kind of have to bring it back at this point.
We could turn into a cooking stream. So people, what kind of prompts do you want to see? What do we want to prompt each other on? What came up during this that we thought was interesting?
You know what would be good? Make an AUs that's good. Make good AUs.
Okay, yeah, there's that. A Ruby fanfic, but an interesting AU. Give us a kind of an out there AU, or
it doesn't have to be do a common AU, but make it not cringe.
yeah, do a common AU and make it not cringe. So those are the qualifiers. It has to be an AU. It either has to be a common AU like coffee shop or college AU or what have you, and not make it cringe, or it can be just an out there AU that you just think really kind of clicked in your head.
If someone can make a coffee shop AU that isn't cringe, I will be extremely impressed.
Alrighty. Gore prompt? Yeah, no, we're not
And yes,
doing
I
that.
guess okay. On the soundtrack stream, I will cook. I will bake something. DM me your suggestions. It can't have meat and cheese in it at the same time, but DM me.
Philly cheesesteak. I'm kidding. But yes, that's the
Ruby,
prompt.
but the Grib are actually threatening AU.
That's impossible. You can't do that at AU. No one would believe you. No, but that's the prompt. AU next week, or not next week, but the week after. Next week is going to be the music stream where we talk about Ruby music. I guess me and Molly will have to listen to. You'll have to give me like your top 10 and worst 10, and I'll listen to those before we go into it.
I'll send you the rankings.
And I'll listen to those before going in. The
Nice.
So yes, that's all for the stream today. Join me on Sunday with the rest of the Sketchy Huntsman, and I hope to see you all then. Until then, catch you all